Back in 2017, I moved to a small town in rural Illinois. I was in my early 20s, single, and arguably a bit of an introvert. Being new to a town with a mostly retired population, I found it incredibly difficult to make friends. I only knew one person there, a friend I'll call Clara. She introduced me to an older couple, likely in their early 50s, who were looking for a dog sitter. She thought it would be a solid way for me to make some local connections and earn some extra cash. We arranged to meet at their house so I could get the lay of the land and meet the dogs. The home was a 1970s brick ranch, severely outdated and falling into disrepair in places. Since I explored abandoned houses for fun, the condition didn't bother me. The dogs were sweet, but the couple was odd. They were friendly enough on the surface, but whenever I spoke, they wouldn't make eye contact. Instead, they would perform a full-body scan, looking me up and down as if they were sizing me up. During the tour, they were silent, simply opening doors, letting me look, and closing them. I should mention that they sold firearms out of their home as a side business. I didn't mind that, but the security was intense. They had cameras everywhere, outside, hallways, living room, kitchen, office, garage, backyard, and even pointed at the kitchen table. They claimed it was for insurance purposes. It made me uncomfortable, but I was desperate for money and connection, so I took the job. When the week came, I set up my workspace in their office. There was a monitor displaying all the camera feeds, which actually put me at ease. I could see the entire perimeter of this isolated property. The house backed up to deep woods, and the dogs had a doggy door to go out 24/7. The first night was uneventful. The second night, however, I noticed the camera watching the driveway went offline. I assumed it was just finicky rural Wi-Fi, but I went to check the physical camera just in case. As I walked to the door, the dog scrambled frantically off the floor, ran out the doggy door, and began barking aggressively. It was 10 p.m. Panic set in. I went to the back door and saw them barking at a specific spot on the fence line near the woods. I saw nothing, but my mind raced with horror movie scenarios. I lured them back in with treats, and feeling paranoid, I blocked the doggy door with a heavy chair before going to bed. The next morning, I woke up late. I noticed the dogs weren't in the room. I walked out and found the house silent. I checked the back door and saw them outside in the yard. My heart sank. I turned to my right and saw the heavy chair I had used to block the door was now pushed 5 feet away into the corner of the room. Panic washed over me. I called Clara immediately. She came over and we did a full sweep of the house but found nothing. She tried to reassure me that maybe I hadn't secured it as well as I thought. I decided to accept that explanation just to get through the next 4 days, but I remained on high alert. Clara left and I returned to work. That evening, I was in the office making dinner when I glanced at the monitor. All 4 cameras were offline. My stomach dropped. 1 camera failing is a glitch. All 4 is a deliberate act. I texted the owners offering to troubleshoot, mostly because I hated losing my line of sight.
Hours went by with no response.
Around midnight, I was watching TV to drown out the silence when the dogs scrambled to the doggy door again. I shot up, heart pounding, grabbed a knife from the bedside table, and went to the back door. The dogs had stopped barking and were sniffing the fence line. I whisper-yelled for them to come in. Just then, I heard a distinct thump come from the other side of the house. Frozen, I had to choose, get the dogs or investigate the noise. I pulled the dogs inside, slid the chair back in front of the door, and took a photo of it this time for proof. I crept toward the back room where the noise originated. I froze in the hallway. There was a shift in the atmosphere, a presence, a break in the stagnant silence. I called out, "Who's there?" Silence. I called the owners' names. Silence. I retreated to the living room, knife in one hand, phone in the other. 20 minutes later, I received a text from the wife. "Hi, don't worry about the cameras, you're safe." I was thrown off. They were in Florida. It was 2 a.m. there. And why mention safety? I hadn't brought that up. Before I could reply, another text came in. "Also, can you make sure I didn't leave the garage door open to the inside? I don't want anything getting in." The door she was referring to was in that back room where I heard the noise. My gut screamed no. I pretended to be asleep. 2 minutes later, "Hi, I know it's late, but can you please check? I'm worried." I still didn't move. Then I heard a shuffle from the back room. My phone lit up again. "I see you're up. Can you please go in and check?" I froze. I had forgotten they had cameras inside. They were watching me. Reluctantly, knowing I was being observed, I unlocked the hallway door and peered into the back room. The door connecting to the garage was indeed open. It was pitch black. I stepped in, terrified. As I approached the garage door, my phone screen lit up with a notification. The faint light cast a glow onto the wall next to the garage door, and I saw the outline of an arm pressed against the wall, waiting. Fight or flight took over. I slammed the door, locked it, grabbed my keys, and sprinted out the front door. As I fumbled with my car keys, the garage door began to open. My headlights illuminated the garage, and I saw a grown man in a jacket squatting behind a box in the corner. I threw the car in reverse and floored it to the police station. The police checked the house. The garage door was open, but the house was clear. No signs of a break-in. They escorted me back to get my things. I couldn't sleep, so I laid on the couch, gripping the knife until 4 a.m. Suddenly, a text from the wife. "Hi, plans changed. We'll be home soon. You can go home now." They were coming home 4 days early, hours after this incident. I grabbed my stuff and left. As I drove down their rural road, I looked in my rearview mirror. A car with no headlights pulled into their driveway. I texted the wife. "Someone just pulled into your driveway." Almost instantly she replied, "I know." Chills ran down my spine. They hadn't been in Florida. They were setting me up. They were in the area the whole time, creeping in the woods, watching me on the cameras I couldn't see. I never heard from them again. My friend Clara was horrified and told me they never came into her diner again. I'm 30 now, and I still can't shake the feeling that I was seconds away from something terrible.